fans. I know the title of this stream is going to be really long, but we're going to go over a few cars. Well, a few car reviews. So, today we're going to be focusing on the M3 from 2010, BMW M3, the Volkswagen Golf GTI. I didn't specify a year, but we're going to go with the 76. And we're going to go with the foxbody Mustang. The Miata are the main two, but I'm also going to be taking a look at the Honda NSX and giving it a solid chance. So, the foxbody Mustang, obviously mine's super maxed out, but we're just going to buy default vehicles. And so yeah, this thing is stock. So yeah, we'll be reviewing that as well. And we're also going to be reviewing a 2010 BMW M3. So, yep, we're going to be going over these vehicles in particular. If I can find a default. Well, there she is. It's a 2010. Yeah. We're going to be buying another one of these things, so stay tuned. So here's the Miata. This thing is the mx5. It's a 96. Very, very solid vehicle. Granted, it's not the best possible vehicle. But I mean, it is a improvement to what some people misidentify this as a sports car, because really all you gotta do, I mean, okay, starting out, yeah, this vehicle, it has 128 horsepower, which isn't much. Now, I'd argue if you're pushing 245 or 246 horsepower out of this thing, yeah, you know, out of a 4-cylinder, you know, put a little turbo in there, yeah, it's going to be pretty sporty. So here's what the car drives like default. Absolutely no modifications. But we're going to try making this slightly sporty. We're going to make it more sportier. How I would personally, if I owned a Miata and I had the cash, what would I do to the Miata to make it passable for me? Obviously, as most of you guys know my taste in cars, I'm very much not a fan of the Japanese varieties. First of all, we're going to see if we can even win a race. So, in this thing. Now granted, the 0 to 60, we're already in third gear. I mean, 65 miles an hour in real life, I mean, this is what you're going to probably max out on, or, you know, highway speeds. Oh boy. For one, we're going to see if this car is even passable. And we're going to give Mazda a try. Now, I don't hate Mazda necessarily as much as I hate Honda and Toyota. I guess you could say I'm more of a Nissan and Mazda guy when it comes to the Japanese cars. I think Mazda makes some pretty neat looking cars, but most of their standard stuff looks pretty lame. I do like the Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I wish it was in this game. I think that's a decent looking car for what it is. Alright, so starting out, alright, looks like we got a Mustang, got a Honda Civic, older Beamer. Looks like, yeah, we got some good varieties, and obviously we're going in last place here, unmodified. It's not very impressive. The cornering, though, the wheelbase is really small, so, you know, it kind of feels like the Porsche 911 RSR in terms of its, like, general size. Not really, but, like, you know, because the rear end of this vehicle is so short. I think this is, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I think this might be rear-wheel drive. So, despite having very little power, the power is going to the rear wheels. So we're seeing if we could even win a race, and granted, what difficulty do we have this on? Do we have this on easy? Feels like we have it on easy. I have it on easy, I'm going to be disappointed. No, we actually have the game difficulty on hard. So, yeah. I forgot that we even have nitrous. Go ahead and use that. I don't really use nitrous too much, but then again, we're also on a harder race. Well, we got the difficulty to hard. So, if you're on easy mode, granted these AI is going to be very forgiving. And so it does handle these corners relatively decent without losing too much speed. Oh, it's a foxbody Mustang. Wish we got some older Audis, like some 80s and 90s Audis, the Quattros. Alright, and when we get to the straight line, these cars are definitely dominating this thing. Oh, of course, the Mustang's going to take us. I don't know why it's not taking the Honda, though. I hate that car. It's a Civic Type R hatchback piece of shit. I hate that vehicle. I hate its existence. And I know hate is a very strong word, but in terms of vehicles I just don't like, I just hate the way they look. They kind of look like a Beetle or something. You know, it just looks gross. And when I say Beetle, I don't mean the Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, it kind of the body kind of resembles the kind of like bulky, circular kind of thing, but I just don't like the way it looks. I don't like the hatchback. Now, granted, I know Honda Civics can be in the sedan version, not a hatchback. Personally, I don't think the sedan version looks as ugly as the hatchback. I know a lot of people like wagons and hatchbacks. I don't. I hate those vehicles. It's actually one of the biggest questions I have about the auto world is why those vehicles have to exist. And yeah, so we're not making much money with this race. We're even though we are going to be pushed to our limits. Yeah, no, we're done. This vehicle cannot really compete, but it can hold its own a little bit in a race, I want to say, but it's just not. It's not on the level it needs to be in order to say win a race. So what we're gonna do is we are going to make this thing really nice and sporty. What would I do to this car to make it sporty? You know, and so, you know, granted, yeah, it's not going to be the best of the best, but we got to make this thing capable of actually racing. Yeah, you know what I mean? And also stylish. So first of all, let's just do the total engine swap. This makes everything sport for 60 grand. Okay. So there we go. Now we have a 276 horsepower, 1.3 liter Winkle. I don't know what the hell a Winkle engine is. The on-road suspension. On-road suspension. Equip item. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Sounds about on par with the Beamer that I own in IRL. Race differentials, just to help drop that time down a little bit. Okay, so now we've added some sportiness to it, some performance to back the sportiness to it. Oh yeah, we're gonna go with this. We go with that option. that. Sort of pull out the front a little bit more. A little sportier. Finish out the body kit nice and hard. Do they have Pirellis? No, but they do have Toyo. Where's the wheel step? Let's get some BBS wheels. Let me see here. Some SSR. Guess that's gonna have to do it. We spent all the money we could on this car. Now it's time to actually put this baby to the test. See if the Miata is now sporty. I mean, granted, it's gonna have to feel at least a little bit sportier. You know, granted, it's displacing almost twice the amount of horsepower as it did before. And now it also has a turbo in there, so granted that turbo is gonna, you know, really make this thing stand out. Same race, same people as before. I really like the rear wheels. I definitely do. Definitely some really badass rear wheels. So, you know, Granted, overall though, the full-out body kit I think really makes this car stand out a little bit better than what it did before. I really like what they did with the headlights. They've had lame-ass pop-up headlights. I hate those things. On most cars I do. On a few cars, on a few super exotic cars from the 80s, yeah, they kind of worked. Alright, so right off the bat, now we're already racing and competing with the vehicles up front. Alright, now we took that corner pretty freaking well, and we're already leaving them in the dust. Now, remember, none of the looks really change anything. The rims might, little bit, but what do you call it? Yeah, no. So changing out the tires and suspension and putting on the right differentials and whatnot. Yeah, dude, this thing is actually not too bad in terms of what it's doing here. The next vehicle we're going to focus on is in fact going to go ahead and be the foxbody Mustang. And granted, the Miata here doesn't feel nearly as bad as it did before. Before it just felt too slow, it took too long to get it to 0 to 60. And so in 5 seconds versus like 8 or 9 seconds, you know, that really makes a difference. You know, you really get to going and can keep going. The point is, the top speed of the vehicle and the acceleration's been increased. Now, the top speed at this level of racing doesn't have to be too high, because it's not like you're going to go at the top speed at all times, but it is going to be like going through here at relatively high speeds. In terms of real life speeds, not Need for Speed speeds or Fast and Furious speeds. In terms of real life speeds, yeah, we're going through here, we're zipping through here pretty well. At 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, you know. The vehicle is tanking it right now, bro. And it's a freaking Miata. Now, it's not like we just put a few mods on there, made it a higher level, and then started racing it and then building it up to where it needs to be. So really, we just put on just a full all-around engine swap. You know, it still has that really short back, and also, unfortunately, there's really only 3 different spoiler options. I wish there was something a little less, like, ridiculous in terms of spoilers. I don't like the humongous spoilers that set up really high, and they're humongous, and they're highly effective. I just like just small factory spoilers that are just not too sporty, because I don't want it to ruin the look of the vehicle. Because if it's my daily driver, I don't want it to be ruined. Now, if it's on the track and it's racing, you know, it can be whatever it wants to be. The carbon fiber hood really makes it stand out, I think, though, in terms of the hood options. I wish there were some more painted hoods. And I wish that there was a taking off the hood option. Just would be freaking cool for this car, just to see, you know, just the Miata engine bay and all that stuff. Granted, though, you know, for what this car is, how cheap it was to fully upgrade, not fully upgrade because it's not fully maxed out to its highest potential, but it is upgraded, so that's all that matters there. I guess the next vehicle we are going to talk about, and it's a shame that I'm not giving the Miata the proper attention that I probably am going to give the rest of these vehicles, but I would give the Miata possibly a 6-star rating. Simply just because instead of a 10-star rating, or I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's, I mean, you know, with this engine swap, with it being the 3rd option, that's the stock, that's upgrade 1. I currently have upgrade 2. Upgrade flat six, it's still running the same engine it originally did. I think the Miata falls into a category of cars that are sportier than most standard cars of its own class, but they're just not a sports car simply because, you know, the affordable sports cars that are, well, super slow and super lame with less features and whatnot, can be considered sportier versions of other cars. But, you know, ultimately speaking, you know, in my opinion, a sports car has to, you know, have a certain type of body style to it, even if it's, you know, like, obviously it's class of vehicle. It could be a coupe, a hatchback, whatever. In my opinion, in general, you know, I don't know. Alright, the next vehicle, I said the foxbody Mustang, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull out the Volkswagen Golf. No, this is not the version we're going to be reviewing. This is actually a meme that I created. This thing's an atrocity, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go win a race with this thing, so you get to see what this thing's top potential is with a bunch of bullshit on it. So the meme for this, honestly, is one of my buddies was like, you know, what would happen if a 1980s geek was in Mad Max and just had a geek-mobile in Mad Max with road rage? You know, what would it look like? What would it just look like? And I'm like, you know, a Volkswagen Golf GTI with just a bunch of fucking ventilation and just, I don't know, this thing just came to mind. And seeing as I had just the options available, I made this a thing. That's just a joke. So yeah, we're gonna have to buy the GTA and the foxbody, and we're gonna leave them both stock. Now, granted, there's also the BMW M3 2010, which clearly was in the Most Wanted game for the 2012 remake of Most Wanted. Granted, so the Volkswagen Golf is a hatchback, and if you guys know my car opinions, I'm not too much a fan of hatchbacks at all. I don't like the design. I don't like how it's short and has like the SUV. It's like a short, stubby SUV thing, and I just don't like that. I don't think it's convenient. Yeah, you get slightly more trunk space than you would in an average sedan, without it being the cost of an actual SUV, and also is the insurance for these things are really cheap. So there is a practicality to owning these things, but does that practicality really outweigh the cost of having to drive this thing? I don't think so. Does this thing have back seats? I'm pretty sure it does. You know, seeing the Kia Soul, I guess that would be a hatchback type of design thing. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where you would classify the Kia Soul / Nissan Cube / BMW i4 / Jeep Renegade. That's going to be a whole video of the different car brands that make the Kia Soul type of vehicle. And those aren't the only one. I also throw the smart car in there, even though it's not quite there. But, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, this thing's fast. It's hard to control. It's not very, oh, shit. So even at this thing's highest potential, yeah, you're still going to get smoked. Fuck you. But, yeah, no, this thing is kind of goofy. It has back seats, so you really don't get that much trunk space, to be brutally honest. I'd say my BMW 328i has more trunk space in terms of how much room you actually get. This one, it's like you can stack things in there, and I'm sure there are certain things you can fit in there that I couldn't fit in my car, but and you can put the back seats down and I guess get more space in general, but in my opinion it's not that much more space, you know, to be honest, which I think is definitely a must when discussing the Volkswagen Golf. So this is not just the Volkswagen Golf, this is the GTI. So in terms of like that translates to. Basically, it just means that I think it just has a little bit more horsepower, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact difference. I know it had wider fenders, and it had a slightly lower sitting suspension, and so I mean, it had some sportier flair to it, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. Oh gosh, I almost had to look it up. What's the difference between the Volkswagen Golf versus the Volkswagen Golf GTI? Alright. I don't know, it's a lot of... I don't know, man, it's a shitload of fucking information I just opened up, and it's like I'm trying to research this particular car year, the 76, and to be honest with you, it's taking me to the early 2000s and like all the different fucking Golf GTIs, and I don't even like this car enough to really care. But the Miata is more expensive and honestly has a higher vehicle level. So, granted, this thing has 110 horsepower, and this has 128. So, to be honest with you, the Volkswagen Golf, if the Miata was disappointing, this thing is going to be very disappointing. As it's extremely slow, 8.9 second fucking 0 to 60 and having low torque. This thing absolutely sucks. We'll get to that. But next, we're going to be looking at the stock foxbody Mustang. So this was like I want to say it was a late 70s, early 80s iteration of the Mustang. Either way, it was that fox body style, which I actually kind of like. Granted, yeah, it's not super freaking sporty, but compared to the Miata, oh dude, this thing is worlds better. And as opposed to the Golf, yeah, it's way more aerodynamic. And yeah, this thing truly is a beaut to look at. Truly is a wonder. Yeah, I definitely think it was a 1970s, like a late 70s, early 80s iteration of the Mustang. And the Thunderbird could also be found in the fox body style, and there was a few other cars that had the fox body style to them. And so, granted, in direct comparison to the, what do you call it, the Miata, you know.
Hello, beautiful.
You know, this thing comes in at 225 horsepower. So because the Miata only is 124 versus the Volkswagen's 101, or however much it had, you know, this already comes in with some pretty high dollar shit for the time. Its 0 to 60 is 6.4 seconds. So, granted, yeah, this thing packs a punch on the road. And granted, it's aerodynamics. Honestly, it's not too bad for the time being. Yeah, there's not much I would really change on this thing. So, seeing as, yeah, this is just an older Mustang. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and attempt a race with it and see how it does in the race. And, well, we're just gonna see if it did better than the Miata. And it's going to be the exact same race, by the way. And it's going to be the same exact race across all these vehicles. And then, so yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it gets up and goes. Now, granted, for an older car, yeah, this 0 to 60 is considerable. That is something I think car people, or people that are not car people, just have to accept. Yeah, so it is still below level, but I mean, this thing definitely has better specs than the Miata. Definitely, no argument there. But definitely under level to win the race. But definitely, if we did that decent with the stock Miata, I'm honestly kind of curious as to what we could do with a fully stock foxbody Mustang. We also have one of these foxbody Mustangs fully converted to 500 plus horsepower with all the Ultimate Plus parts. So, you know, yeah. So granted, everything in front of me here is already going to be worlds better in terms of what it does. But this thing, honestly, it definitely has something going for it. Okay, so we got lucky there. And since I don't usually use turbo, we're going to go ahead and, not turbo, nitrous. There's already a foxbody Mustang in the race, and we just sort of caused that to happen. Alright, so there's third. So already, compared to holding it into the 6th and 5th place, with the highest being the 5th place, taken from us by a Honda Civic. You know, I definitely think this, those numbers and those placements come from the Miata, not this thing. So going from that to this is a serious improvement. So, you know, in terms of handling, yeah, there's not much issue with this car's handling, honestly. Coming into this thing with an open mind and trying to put my differences aside in my personal tastes and my opinions about cars and what I think about cars, how I view cars as a sport, trying to put all that aside so I can give an honest and truthful review here. Definitely did get unfortunate there with that. Granted, though, this is an under-leveled vehicle stock. And so, what modifications should I make to the Mustang? And I think overall, getting a little engine swap there wouldn't really do me any harm. Just an engine swap, nothing too crazy. We still have money, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 42 grand. I think we need to make a little bit more money. So, but this race in particular, it definitely has its moments here, right, where times get a little hard. Final lap to make shit happen. Mr. Roadkill. Remember to pass me. That's my name, Sully. Boost Nitro to get us back up to speed. Second place, under-leveled and stock. Truly is a miracle. This truly receives a, granted with my skill level, and this is on hard difficulty, and with my skill level being into factor here, and with playing the game pretty cheaply also being into factor here, I wouldn't say we did too bad, honestly, with this vehicle. I would not say we did too bad. I'd say we did just fine. Now, however, with a few things considered.
So when are you gonna get your own place?
Don't listen to him.
We're gonna have to go grab our other foxbody Mustang. Now you guys get to see this thing at its top potential. Already seen the Volkswagen Golf GTI at its top 10 or its max potential. But this thing, yeah, this thing's kind of goofy. But it's also hella cool. At some point you can have this thing. It doesn't perform really freaking well in comparison to the stock version. Yeah, this is like worlds better. But is it fair to compare the stock version to this? It is not by a long shot. It's not fair. But we're still gonna play this game with this car, and also bring up the fact that this, at its max potential of the foxbody Mustang here, it's definitely quick on turning rapidly and being able to sway the body in the direction you need it to. Very unstable, so it is very easy to lose control when going too fast, I feel like, because around these corners on this lap track here, it's too fast for its own good, I feel like. too expensive to get that engine swap, but it's at 117 as far as overall vehicle rating goes. So I tell you what we should do. Suspension. These babies. Brakes don't really matter too much. So now with some major upgrades being in order here, you know, swapping over most things but not everything to the next tier, surely does add a whole bunch of stuff to it. And adding that turbo really makes a difference. Now, just keeping it naturally aspirated is one thing. In real life, turbos will have turbo lag. But now we got something cooking here. Alright, so, not too fast, but also not too slow either. I think some vehicles being too fast. Okay, yeah, 180. I bet you we would have been 197, I think, if we swapped the crankshaft and we had the purple with the plus next to it, the Elite Plus parts or whatever you want to call them, I don't know. What we're going to do here essentially is see how the upgraded version of the foxbody Mustang performs without it being fully upgraded. And granted, we're going to sell these parts, so we're trying to replace this back to stock for other comparisons in the future. But as you guys can see, holy shit, this thing is just picking up, and it is really going to just take away first place from these fuckers. How it's pretty aggressive, but dropping that 0 to 60 down even faster. I mean, really, the turbo makes a huge difference. But you know, with everything else being in order, and with the road being how it is now, it's a pretty sweet fucking drift I just pulled back there. Slick as shit too. And this vehicle this setup here really performs actually rather well. I think the setup's more fun than the actual stock version. I think I just switched over the crankshafts and everything else to the plus purple parts, just so that way I had the optimal, even getting the plus turbo, the purple turbo, I think would have actually been pretty beneficial. Just saying. But this vehicle, oh shit, I'm just driving like a moron. But nah, man, this car's potential is actually relatively high. You can get a maximum of 1,000 plus horsepower out of the stock engine without having to swap it. You're just maxing out the parts. So, as far as this goes, man, yeah, I mean, feels really aggressive, honestly. It just feels aggressive enough. Now, the Miata had an engine swap, so, you know, it definitely could have been better in terms of, like, I don't know what it can do, but this thing, it was a little more pricier than the Miata, but this thing truly feels like a better option. But yeah, definitely is relatively slow, but stock, we definitely got second place on this race with this car being stock. Let me see what all the cars I had just listed off that I'm going to be racing with here. I think the next one was the Volkswagen Golf. Gotta be watching my stock market, or I gotta be watching the So the next is the Volkswagen Golf. Get prepared for some immediate disappointment. Now if I just sold all my vehicles, yeah, I can make as many videos on this game as possible. But I just like having a massive fucking garage. I mean, I have over 100 plus vehicles, 100 plus choices that I can make. So if anyone asks, you know, I probably have it. Alright, so. I really like this McLaren. I gotta say though, McLarens are actually the most affordable supercar that there is on the market. I'd say the more affordable option would probably be a Corvette, but it's not really a supercar. It's sort of the cross between both. But yeah, owning a Corvette would be kind of cool in today's world. It's more easy to get a hold of a Corvette than it is a Ford GT. Although I will go ahead and admit the Ford GT was a better option. But you see, the Ford GT, what made it really cool is back in the early 2000s, you know, it was cheaper than the Ferraris and it had better, in some instances, performance. And so really from Ford's perspective, you know, the GTs, it's like all-time super vehicle. Well, I just think Ford would do better, okay, if it just made an alternative to the Ford GT lineup and included a few more muscle cars and a few cheaper, more affordable sports cars for the Ford lineup. You know, if Ford would do something like that, truly I think Ford as a car company would truly feel better than what it is. Especially if they made a Lincoln supercar. Like you know, like what Mercedes-Benz does, or even Lexus to an extent. That's who Lincoln's really competing with. But I don't think Lincoln ever made a supercar. Obviously, they made the Lincoln Continental and the Town Car, which are, well, you know, commercial vehicles, luxury commercial vehicle kind of things. But, you know, Lincoln, as far as it goes, there really isn't a lot in the Lincoln lineup that really stands out to many people. Obviously, you know, the Lincoln Navigators are cool SUVs. They're sort of just like the competitor towards, I think, they're like the opposite, or not opposite, but the competitors, Chevy's option would be the Cadillac Escalade, right? Because, oh shit, oh, our car basically just went airborne. So yeah, no, yeah, if Ford really had more options like the Ford GT, at least alternatives to it, I think Ford as a car brand would be really fun. But unfortunately, the GTs are made in such limited capacity that, you know, it's just really hard to get your hands on one. You know, hopefully they'll come back, and hopefully they don't come in all electric. You know, if Ford stays away from that all electric BS, because if we think about it, Ford right now can hold the market in terms of the American car brands simply because it hasn't fully gone all electric, and they've announced they plan to, but that's lame. But the thing is, the Dodge Chargers and Challengers are all electric now, which no one wants them, no one cares for them. Chevy has discontinued the Camaro, so they're no longer in production. So it's just like, well, shit, Ford's got the Mustang, and that's the answer everyone's been looking for. So there really isn't any competition. This is Ford's time to shine, if you think about it. And I think, hell, they could do it. Hell, if they even make a new truck and a new SUV option, sure, that's fucking great. Go for it. Make a bigger lineup. But ultimately speaking, the first thing they gotta do is get rid of the Maverick. They gotta kill that crappy fucking Ford Maverick bullshit. Bring back the Maverick as an actual fucking muscle car. A sporty muscle car. Like something that they could pair with the fucking Mustang in the absence of the Ford GT, you know. And so we're gonna pull out a Mustang really quickly here. You know, actually, yeah, actually we're just going to pull out a Ferrari. Which one do I pull out? I think I want to pull out the F40. Honestly, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull out the Ferrari F40. I like the F40. It's such a beautiful car. It's such an immaculate car. Like, this car truly is this is the pinnacle of automotives. This and the Ford GT40 and the 2005 Ford GT, as well as the Lamborghini Countach and Lamborghini Diablo SV, as well as fucking the McLaren F1. All these vehicles are the pinnacle of vehicles. Also, not to exclude the BMW M1 and the 1995 BMW 8 Series in general. You know, all those options. Pinnacle of vehicles. Included with that number, I do want to go ahead and also suggest even the Corvettes of the early 2000s. Like, oh my gosh, are you seeing this thing? Dude, this thing is fast and beautiful, and yeah, it's maxed out, so of course it's gonna be fast, but jeez, the fucking wheeze, man. Holy fucking hell, man. Give us a break. This thing's like the second coming of Christ. Holy shit. It's just it's not letting up. It just, oh my god, dude, naturally aspirated. I don't think I put a turbo in this baby. No, actually, I take that back. I definitely did. But, oh my god, you just gotta love the sound of a naturally aspirated engine. I mean, there's just something to it that is just, oh my god, it's awesome. But the Ferrari F40, right, this vehicle, I hear rumor, speculation that they're going to bring back the F40, but it's not going to, I just hope to God it's not going to be all electric, because this all electric BS is just nonsense. Alright, all it is I mean, you know, it's the same issue you have with gas cars, right? It's non-renewable resources. People ask me, well, it's electric, it's not renewing any energy. Yeah, well, it does take up natural resources to manufacture the actual batteries. It takes a lot of nickel and a lot of copper, or, you know, everything that goes into making a car battery, lead, fucking, other fucking minerals and shit to actually make a battery. I don't know the exact list of every exact mineral, but the way we get those minerals, we have to ship them through a boat. That boat pollutes. Then we build them in a manufacturing facility. That manufacturing facility to manufacture them pollutes. It does emit carbon emissions. To make matters worse, batteries have a shelf life, and the thing is, if the battery is what powers your vehicle, if your vehicle battery dies, right? If it's no longer a thing, then you no longer have a car. So when you go to resell it, you're like, oh well, the battery's out, but the car is in great condition. Well, it's not going to sell for very fucking much if the fucking battery's done. You know what I mean? So to me, it's not an investment. It's losing its value a lot higher than that of an actual engine. Because at least with the engine, it's not measured by range and battery life. It's measured by miles. You know, a good car, I'd say, a really reliable car, you can get 350,000 miles out of it. Now, is it going to be the best car with that kind of miles? Hell the fuck no. But will it last that long? Hell yeah. And that'll take a lot longer to get 350,000 miles on a car than it will to get that kind of mileage out of a battery without it dying. And when it does die, you know, whenever that is inevitable, when it does die eventually, what ends up happening is, if it dies on the road or whatever, it's got to be recharged. Then a gas-powered van, drives up with a gas-powered fucking generator to plug into your electric car, and you're sucking down gas to charge your electric car. It's just that fucking simple. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because we fucking, I don't know, it's just, that process is stupid. And beyond all that, we don't, as a country, as far as the United States goes, I'm not talking for Europe, I'm not talking for China, I'm not talking, and when I say Europe, I mean, you know, England, France, Germany. I'm not talking about those countries, alright? I'm talking about the U.S. Us, not Japan, you know, not you know, any South American countries or any African nations. I'm just talking about just the United States. We as a country do not produce enough electricity on our power grids to power all electric vehicles if everybody had them. Because you gotta remember, there are over 400 million people living in the U.S. alone. So when you go to places like China and whatnot, that many people, it's hard to feed that many people when you have more people that live in China than they do in the U.S. and India and other places, in the Middle East especially, right? In those areas in general, when there's more people living there, the problem is, how are you getting this energy? How are you manufacturing this energy, right, to get your vehicles to actually to do anything, right? How are you manufacturing this energy? Because if the U.S. can't do it, most countries most likely can, unless they're using nuclear energy, and which in the same world where these environmentalists say, you know, don't use nuclear energy even though it's cleaner, it's more effective, it saves the environment, it produces almost zero carbon emissions. Instead, their alternatives are windmills, and you need to deforest the earth to place these windmill farms, and they don't even do much. And then the other place, apart from the wind turbines, apart from those, hydro energy is pretty effective, but, you know, how are you going to make a hydro energy plant in the Midwest or, you know, in the Deep South? You know, I mean, there's not a hydroelectric plant every single state, you know, and if they do, some of them are really small, you know what I mean? But apart from that, the solar panels things, those fucking suck ass. They're getting more advanced, and they're getting more efficient, and they're getting slightly better. True, but granted, at this point in time, they suck ass. And they they only work for half of the day. The other half of the, when nightfall happens, they're not effective. And so the other thing is this, right? If everyone's relying on these electric-powered cars, what happens if there's a mass blackout and no one's getting to work? It's just the fact of the matter is these things suck ass. So that's my argument towards electric vehicles. That's why I don't like electric vehicles. I don't think EVs are exciting. I think they're retarded. I think they're lame. I think they're not I don't think they're stylish. Teslas, I don't like them. The fact that they're missing the grill, they're missing an exhaust, they're really freaking quiet. Here's the thing, man. If they're really freaking quiet, no one's going to hear it. So whenever you do a burnout, all they can hear is tires screeching without any kind of engine or any kind of exhaust or anything going at all. They don't hear any of that. All you hear is loud tire screeching. And it's the saddest and most disappointing thing in the entire world. And I get it, Teslas have all these advanced fucking features. Well, you know who else has advanced features? Mercedes, BMW, Land Rover, like Rolls-Royce, Bentley. You're not the only car brand. Tesla's not the only car brand with advanced fucking features. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell you right now, man. If I want a fucking luxury vehicle, I'll just go with BMW, because I'm not the biggest on luxury vehicles. I do like luxury vehicles, but I'm more of a premium car guy, and at best I love sports cars. So for me, it doesn't have to have all the gizmos and shit. As long as it goes fast, it's sporty looking, and has decent performance, that's all that really matters to me, truly. Gas mileage can suck my ass. I don't really care about, the miles per gallon. I care about the power to weight ratio. That matters more to me. Oh my gosh, dude, the Volkswagen Golf GTI here. This thing really freaking sucks, but we might get lucky and get 6th or 5th place. I don't think we're gonna win this by no means. This thing is shittier than the Miata. That's just the truth. Now, for the 1980s, this thing was kind of exciting. Now we're back at 8th place. We've lost. We're going to go ahead and just gather our losses. And we're going to go ahead and go straight towards the garage and start instant modifications here. So yeah. But this thing completely sucks ass. But for the 1970s, for being a hatchback, and it was decently quick. I mean, let's just talk about it real quick. 110 horsepower, this is pretty common. Or was this an inline 4? 0 to 60, it's average. The modern Honda CR-V is like 10 seconds. So this is technically faster. This is way sportier than any Honda CR-V, whatever. This thing's way sportier. How do I want to do this? There we go. That is it. On-road adds +7 in that category. Yeah, on-road suspension here. tires. There we go. That's all we needed. It's just a little turbo. Alright. So, now with the engine swap, now it has a 6-cylinder in it. Now it's going to really get up and go. It's at 170 now. So now it has the potential to race, but it's still not stylish enough. Now the 0 to 60 definitely dropped down quite a bit. So the real question is, does this thing still have potential? As you guys saw earlier, when this thing's maxed out, it's hella goofy. This thing, definitely, the turning just really freaking sucks, mainly because it is a hatchback, where the weight's located. And about the general size of the vehicle and whatnot. So yeah, it's 170. One or whatever the rating is, it definitely is 20 points higher than the recommended vehicle level. So I have full confidence we could definitely at least reach the top 3 placement. So we're definitely going to beat some shittier vehicles in this race. In terms of the styling, this thing's like a midget DeLorean. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Volkswagen Golf GTI. Just not a fan. But this thing's really kicking it, man. It's throwing that competition away, but the turning on this vehicle really freaking sucks. It's just not there yet with turning. But because you have all this on-road suspension and tires and whatnot, it's really handling ways better than what it was before. So yeah, I mean, this thing does have some upgradable potential, and yeah, this being one of the cheaper cars to get, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Next up is kind of exciting, because next up is a car that's relatively expensive to own. And in real life, in my opinion, it's possibly the most overrated freaking vehicle in the entire world, especially during the 90s. And simply put, I mean, okay, alright. The Honda NSX. Yes. The Honda NSX is super overrated. Now, granted, yes, by all means, today, it's one of the more affordable supercar-looking vehicles. Does that mean everyone needs to go out and get one? Absolutely not. Mostly just because, in comparison, it's really not that great. Especially in terms of what you're going to get for your bang for your buck. It's a Honda, so yeah, it's super reliable. Yearly maintenance is not going to be nearly as high as, say, one of the other alternatives when it comes to actual supercars. Brands like Lamborghini and Ferrari. A lot of Honda fanboys mistake the NSX and they call it the Ferrari killer. I don't really see how. Yeah, the vehicle is just too slow to compete with a Ferrari. Especially one of that time, say like a Ferrari Enzo or even a Ferrari 360, you know. It might be able to compete with a 308, but I don't know. I think it could beat the 308, but I don't know. I don't think it's really going to be beating a Ferrari 360 or even the F50, but most certainly not the Ferrari. So it's just not competing with that car in terms of stats, like by the books. But you might say, well, it's a Honda engine, so the aftermarket, blah, 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 put a turbo in it. VTEC. Well, don't matter. VTEC. Well, it kind of does matter, because VTEC is highly inefficient. It's the most overrated dog shit that there is. Truly, you know, I mean, the thing is it's a supercar with a minivan engine in it that's low performing. That's just the fucking truth. So, yeah, the Volkswagen GTI Golf, this thing's a classic car. Many people own these things. I never will own one, personally. So I cannot speak on actually owning one in real life, but racing it in this game, I can tell you this thing really sucks ass. So next up is definitely going to be one of the most controversial...
Half the racers on the street don't even remember what we've done for the city.
I think in the game it's a 1995 or a 1992. I don't know. $1992. So it's a 270 horsepower V6 and a 3.0 liter. Oh shit. Honestly, man, back in the day, the original MSRP I think was like 80 grand or some shit like that. They wanted a whole lot for it back then. Like, you know, for a Honda, I'm not paying no 80 grand for this piece of dog shit. I'm sorry, boys, but this thing's overpriced. Yeah, so so the accuracy of the game version, it's pretty forgiving. It gives it an extra 6 horsepower, and its real life counterpart only did 270, but that's, you know, by the book, so I'm sure it had more potential horsepower, whatever. Its gas mileage is the same as my 2011 BMW 328i, and so, you know, 270 out of a 6-cylinder. I'd argue if it was doing like 305 or some shit like that, yeah, it would be a pretty freaking cool car. But 270, man, eh. So actually, no, they wanted the 1992. They wanted 62 grand. But they're only doing so the 0 to 60 was 5 seconds. In the game, it is 4 point. Do I have the actual stock shit on there? Yeah, the game is pretty freaking forgiving when it comes to this car. Alright. And that is naturally aspirated with no turbo. So it starts off at 154, so it should be able to easily smoke that first race. Is it the most stylish Honda in the whole world right now? Yeah, it's the most stylish Honda. I will give the NSX credit where credit is due. Yeah, today they won 100 grand for it, 86 grand. Yeah, too much for a Honda. If I'm paying 80 grand, it's gonna probably have a Lambo or maybe a Porsche logo on there, but it's not gonna have no Honda logo on there. I don't abide by that standard there. That's just too much money for a Honda. And Honda, Honda fans are like, it's the golden vehicle. It's like Honda Supra. Okay, yeah, well the Supra's also overrated. Like they're just overrated. They're overhyped. They're mid. Okay, they're just not that great. I know that offends a lot of people that are just fans of Fast and Furious. All right, yeah, those are just movies. That's not really the actual car world. And there are people in the car world that just live by these things. And okay, all right, the whole Honda's an economy brand that everybody can afford, and they're sleepers, this and that. Like, okay, yeah, whatever, pal. They're still mid, all right. So the thing wasn't worth 60, however much it was, 60 grand back in the day. That's not worth 60 grand now. That's just the fact of the matter. I'd say I would probably pay a good solid 32 grand for this thing if I had the money. I'd pay 32 grand for this thing. I want to pay a dime more. I'd pay 30 grand for this thing. But it is definitely the best looking Honda that there is, most certainly. Now, is this thing overpriced? Is it overrated? Yeah, overrated and overpriced are two separate things. As far as the pricing goes for this thing, yeah, I'm sure, it killed Honda to make something actually nice. And so, because actual thought had to go into making this thing, yeah, I'm sure they had to overprice it. Yeah, I'm sure they weren't expecting it to sell very well. But that's the thing, this thing had potential. Now, if they just continued making these things into the mid-2000s, I think that, I think, to my knowledge, they stopped making them after this generation, and then they brought them back recently. And the new, it's only made by Acura, right? The Acura NSX, it looks absolutely ugly. I'm sorry, fam. I prefer a Shelby GT500 any day of the week. It's got the hybrid engine. I don't like it. It's just not interesting enough. I'm sorry. Now, for a car to be interesting, it doesn't require too much for a car to be relatively interesting. In my opinion, all a car has to do to be interesting is just have something going for it. This car doesn't have much going for it. And I will say this though, for it being the best looking Honda and for being basically much cheaper than, say, an actual Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and what do you get out of it? You're not getting the performance and power out of it, I'll tell you that much. If you're buying this thing to feel like you're going super fast or whatever, yeah, I'm sure on the main roads and just, whatnot, yeah, I mean, it's going to be just as fast as other cars, if not faster. This thing's significantly underpowered. Now, if Honda made an 8-cylinder engine of some kind for this thing, and 0 to 60 was in 4 or something seconds, like 4.5 or some shit like that, yeah, I'm fucking sure. But that's the thing, bro. Like, if I take a 2019 BMW M3, it's way faster than this. It's like, well, that's a 2019. Yeah, but, if I take even a 330i, I'm sure it's going to be faster than this thing. Well, it's a newer car. It's made by a more reputable brand. Well, not reputable. Most people that like Hondas, that would advocate or argue for them, probably I'm not gonna say probably. That's assuming. What's it called? From what I've heard, a lot of the JDM car community in general, they like to shit on German cars. It's just the fact of the matter. In every comment section on either YouTube Shorts or Instagram or even Facebook to some degree, they're always complaining about the reliability of BMWs and just the in general, like car meets to an extent in real life, just extending outside of YouTube. Yeah, I get it, the car community in general, car meets kind of suck today because just like most people are just driving the exact same things and people don't appreciate cars. I get it. Now, seeing this thing in real life is different from seeing it in a video game. In a video game, it's like, yeah, there are better options in the game, but in real life, I'll tip my hat to them. Now, the Civics, I just hate with an absolute passion. I know I'm not the only one that hates the fucking Civics with an absolute passion. There are just people out there that they will just buy a Honda Civic and it's just like their dream car. Like it's the only car that they've ever wanted. I don't even know if I won that race. I wasn't even paying attention. Now, granted, with all that criticism, is this a bad vehicle by any means? No. I'm going to give this thing a solid 7 out of 10. For a Honda, this is the highest rated Honda on any list. It's not a perfect 8 yet. I'd even give it a 7.5. It's or even a 7.8. Like it's almost there. It's just it's too overpriced and it's just not fast enough. Honestly, just my opinion. The style is there. Like this looks like a combination of like a Ferrari and or actually it looks like okay, here's how I would describe the Honda NSX. It looks like, to me, just my opinion, it looks like the combination of a McLaren F1 mixed with a Corvette. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but that's just my opinion of what it looks like. Everyone can have their opinion on what they think it looks like as well. That's perfectly fine. I like this advanced kit. I really like it, honestly. No. Absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, do I think that, you know, okay, modifying this car, how to make it faster, whatever. So doing some minor modifications to the thing, the power level is still relatively low. I just don't know why this thing couldn't be better. But that's just between me and the car itself. So with one modification on there, granted, not a full engine swap, nothing crazy like that. The next iteration of this we get, where the next Honda NSX that I get, I am going to essentially fully mod it out with that advanced kit with an engine swap and everything else. Make it red. You know, I think the red Honda NSX is nice. Now, granted, back in the day, I think the highest trim model to this thing was in that $80,000. I don't think I'm tripping on that. I think that that's the case. I have to go back and look, obviously, but I don't know now. Today they're 80 grand. I'm seeing them go for 90, 70 grand all day long. You can find them for that price. Is it worth that? I'm gonna say fuck no. Just being me. It's not fucking worth it. Like, at all. Okay, if you can't alright, if you can't get to 0 to 60 in 3 or 4 seconds, it's not worth that kind of price point. Unless, of course, it has a Ferrari, Lamborghini, or associated badge with an exotic car brand, or even lesser exotic brands like Shelby. You know, just my opinion, the Acura NS, or the Honda / Acura NSX, I think it's overrated. It's overpriced. It's just, overall, it's not the best vehicle. Now, is it the best Honda? 110%, yes it is. It is the best Honda. Just as I would argue that the Supra is the best Toyota. Just as much as I would argue that the Nissan Skyline R34 is the best looking Nissan. Even, was it the 270 Z or whatever it is? I'd say that's also pretty decent looking. I wouldn't say it's the best looking. When I say Supra, I'm referring to the Mark IV Supra. I'm not referring to the modern Supra, which, by the way, has a BMW engine in it. So I have a great appreciation for that vehicle. But, you know, I mean, granted, yeah, I mean, my dream car, the car I'm working towards owning in the future, like in the far future, is a Ferrari. You know, but that's going to take 10 to 20 years of saving up my money. I'll be probably in my late 30s, early 40s by the time I actually get my grubby bits on a Ferrari. So, you know, if YouTube ever, for whatever reason, pans out into a career and I make serious cash with it or whatnot, like I've taken up investing in stocks, right, so that in hopes in those 20, 30, 40 years, whatever, I hope not 40 years, I'm already 20, that'd be 60. I don't want to own a Ferrari and then die. Like, that sucks. I've already given myself a timeline. I'm probably going to make it to 75 and then die, honestly. That's probably my expiration date, 70, 75, honestly. But for me personally, I don't even want to live past 60, so for me, my 50s are going to be like that strange time where any goal I ever have has to be complete. So I hope to live the most in my 20s and 30s, do everything responsibly and smart, so that way by the time I reach that age, you know, I'm just disappointed that I wasn't working at 16 and starting to get into stocks at a younger age, because if I did, if I got into saving my money and investing in IRAs, stocks and bonds and shit like that, I mean, I would already be basically set. And it's not just a thing of money, because you can't just take $6 grand out of your ass basically and throw it towards stocks and savings. You know, I mean, granted, there's living responsibly. I'd say comfortably start putting cash in an actual safe. Actually have 6 grand in a safe. You know, and if you ever run into emergencies and just need to pull from it, like a car accident or whatever have you, you know, you can do that. You can build it, make it bigger for bigger and worse emergencies. You know, God forbid your car is completely totaled and you have to. Insurance is going to give you the blue book price of what the vehicle's worth and whatnot. Hell, you might even throw extra money, your own personal cash towards it, and help try to get something that you actually want. But, you know, granted, the whole thing is that 6 grand, if you're investing 6 grand into personal savings for emergency funds, that's one thing. There's also the shit we all want. For me, it's guns, and that's really it. Guns and video games. Maybe every now and again some memorabilia of something I care about, or some art. But really, now most of my money, I like to play with money. You know, and what I mean by that is I like to move my money or see what happens when I put my money into this or into that. See it once, like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Type of thing. So last year, when I was 20, and I'm 21, so it's not like I'm that much older. But I was going to a lot of like strip clubs and shit like that, just living the life, trying to sort of see what my 20s is all about. I'm still young in my 20s. I can still do all of that right now. But granted, you know, I've been going to church, so for me, that's like sort of goes against my religion. It goes against my moral beliefs. It goes against the kind of lifestyle I want to build for my future. And granted, even to an extent, this stock market thing kind of sort of feeds into eventually, if I get too greedy, yeah, greed is a sin. You know, if I'm throwing, you know, I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. Honestly, it's just crazy because, you know, some people are not very religious, so, you know, that's perfectly fine. You know, we live in the United States. Well, I live in the United States. I don't know about everyone watching. Some people might live in England, France, Germany, Africa. And when I say Africa, I know Africa's not a country, it's a continent, so they could be living in Zimbabwe or Mozambique. Whatever the situation is, right, wherever you're living, it might not be the same condition as, say, the United States, and so I get that. I fully get that. But for me personally, it's just crazy, like, because in the Bible it says, you know, all man sins, right? You know, greed, lust, laziness, you know. It's so easy because, right, it says in human nature, right, we're born sinners, right? So the idea is it's like so easy to become lazy, to just sit down and not do anything, to just sit on your ass and eat food, and, you know, eating too much food, being fat, no offense, right, being super overweight is a sin. It's called gluttony. It's God's way of punishing us for overeating and, you know, overindulging, right? That's why when you think about, like, old cartoons and shit, royalty, like kings and political people of power, they were all super fucking fat, because it's a message of saying, well, look at all the poor people that are like super skinny because they're starving, and look at all these rich people that are really fat because, you know, they have money and greed, and then gluttony, and then sloth because they're lazy. And you know, it was also presumed back in the day as when many rich people had mistresses or people that they would see that weren't their wives. That's lust, cheating, which is wrong. So beyond all that, it's like, wow, look how many sins really tied into that lifestyle, and they didn't even realize it. It's like, holy shit, that makes sense. That's what God doesn't want us to be. He wants us to be caring. He wants us to be generous. He wants us to be faithful. He wants us to be honest. That kind of stuff. And those are the moral values that I've been living by, for the most part. But I admit there are times where I eat a lot, but I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6 foot. I'm 6'2". For me personally, being 6'2" and being built, right? I leg press 800 pounds. I bench press 200. And I'm talking multiple sets and reps. I'm talking about 3 sets of 15 is what I usually go for. I don't push myself beyond any of that because that's a lot of weight I'm moving. But I'm a pretty big dude, right? So for me, eating just goes into factor because it takes a lot to fuel me. It really does. But yeah, no. So I started investing in stocks, and I don't know, I'm pretty excited seeing where it's gonna go, what's gonna happen. So I've talked myself into this new plan. So I've started my portfolio. I've invested about $165 so far. So the share price. So understanding stocks. You'll have people like Andrew Tate or whatnot try and sit there and tell you investing in stocks are not an investment at all. Well, sometimes it's not a guaranteed investment, no, But I'll tell you what is guaranteed is that when you go and sell your stock, I mean, at least you're gonna get most of your money back if the stock is doing really freaking well. Depends on, again, your return on investment depends on how many shares you own. And that's really going to depend on, so a single share price. I'll sit here and kind of explain how the stock market kind of works. So the total gain is determined based upon where the stock is at, and that's on the daily basis. Now, on the weekly basis, it will tell you like how well it's been doing throughout the week. So usually you can sort of indicate, and then it'll also tell you the same thing on a monthly basis. And then a yearly basis, and then the overall basis since it's been a company, or whatever. For the past, 4 or 5 years, I think it's every 5 years I don't know about that part. But what I do know is this: you want to look at your yearly, monthly, and weekly basis, figure out the patterns. So that way you can predict when to buy stocks. So here's the thing, you might save up a few months and then you might have $2,000. Buy it while it's super freaking low, right? While the share prices are really low. That way you get more shares for more bang for your buck, basically. And then when you notice it starts going back up, your return on investment starts kicking in. And it only starts kicking in when you own a percentage of the company. The way you own a percentage of share is the average cost per share for this company is $140.36. The current share price is $140.17 because it's down by like a few points, whatnot. So it's only a few cents cheaper. But there are situations where it's like $40-50 cheaper. So those $40-50, say it's $80. Now instead of it being $140, that $80 times 3 or whatever is like basically a share and a half. So when you buy $2,000 or $3,000 worth of stocks, you're getting almost 20 extra stocks in total compared to what you would have gotten. So you're getting more bang for your buck. So that's something to just remember about how that works. The other thing is this, right? So when the stocks go up, when the price per share goes up, your overall return on investment is going to be higher. So when you start investing in a stock, I know this something else that's kind of cool is when people invest in multiple stocks. not just one. Okay. So yeah, the that's an M2. Where is it? There it is. No, it's not. Where is she? There she is. The 2010 M3. Now, this is 414 horsepower versus 200 horsepower. Almost double the horsepower. So BMW wins. Right? Right. I'd say it wins. It won my vote. It definitely won my vote. 4.5 seconds. Let's see here. Top speed. Definitely won my vote. The BMW M3. I just love this thing. It just looks just like my car. The only difference is the side or the front fenders and the hood. And my grille is slightly different. Just slightly different. The 2011, 2012 are my favorite years for the BMWs. 2013 still looked good overall. But 2014, 2015 is when they started changing the looks again a little bit more. I don't know, the nice thing is, right, the brand identity, it's all the way there, you know. You get a lot of brand identity, like you can easily identify a BMW from a regular vehicle, except for the rear end. They just have not, we have not as a team, right, we have not got there as far as the rear end goes. Now, granted, when you're a BMW fan, you know, you can typically tell BMW based upon where the exhaust is located, obviously the BMW badge, but also the headlights, or not headlights, the tail lights. Now, the front of the BMW is so easy to see where it is. And whatnot. But yeah. So already being 180, it automatically takes you out of the, you know, the whole factor of, well, my car's under level. It starts off above level, default, just out of the factory, out of the box. It's a good looking car, and it sucks to say what happened to my car. So some people might have heard about the car accident. Personally, you know, yeah, it happened. Shit happens all the time. Am I super freaking panicked and worried about it? Every day. You know, yeah, I gotta fucking pay to fix my car. You know, yeah, I don't know how much the labor is gonna be, and that's really all I gotta pay left for the car is just the labor of my car payment for the month. And it's already made my monthly car payment so far. So just gotta figure out what the labor is. I did grab some overtime. So, you know, yeah. So, my next paycheck or so, I don't know, I'll figure it out. But I'm also going to be financing another car. But I'm going to have to pay for the maintenance to my current car. So when I make my car payment, right? Not my car payment, my next paycheck, when I pay for the labor when it's done, it's not even done yet. So when I pay for that labor, whatever that price point is, you know, I'll have my car back. It'll be drivable. And it's already getting aligned and all that other nonsense. You know, so that's all included. So it's one price. So I pay that off, which is going to suck up most of my money. Then I'm going to worry about getting another car. So minimum payments on my credit cards, because I'm chipping those down. So overall, progress on both credit cards. But now I'm going to have my third car, or my second car. I'm buying another car, basically. It's a cheap car, but it's a 2005 Chrysler 300C, and it's relatively luxurious. Now, yeah, it does have some minor body damage, very minor, like just a tiniest dent. It wasn't even caused by a car accident, I don't think. I just think it was just an accident where someone may have like hit it with a bicycle or something like that, or or maybe it's just something fell on it, or someone got mad and threw something and just fell in the car, happened to take it. But apart from that, on the online photos, and I had to really zoom in to see if it was damaged. It might not even be damaged from all what I can tell. So, I get that situated whenever the time comes. But, the nice part is it's four-door. It has a little bit more legroom for the passengers and the front and back passengers. It has a little bit more trunk space than my BMW. It's a bigger car, so, yeah. But it's not an SUV. Like, it's a Chrysler 300C, so it's relatively stylish. It's got a 5.7 liter V8 Hemi in it, so that's a pretty badass car. I believe it does over 300 horsepower, if I'm not mistaken. So for me, that's pretty rough. Like, that's pretty badass. So it's a little bit more powerful in terms of 0 to 60 and overall speed and whatnot. And its transmission is pretty bulky and reliable. I mean, the Chryslers of that year, they're decently reliable, and this one might have a few minor cheap issues to fix. I'm willing to do that, and at the same time, I'm gonna put a down payment. It's only like $5 grand, I think, is how much the car costs. It's also rear-wheel drive, so it's got a lot of power to the rear wheels. So either way, it's pretty cool. Now, granted, my BMW is all-wheel drive, which is kind of awesome. But either way, guys, I'm gonna have two freaking cars. So for me, my family, I grew up in a household where no one had two cars.
None of that hoopty shit for you no more.
So my Beamer is officially being parked in the garage, which is something so freaking awesome. 507 horsepower. I'll put on there is the track differentials. Speed. Get that improved clutch in there. So just putting one, taking away the naturally aspirated element, just putting one upgrade in there. And it's being an elite part. I feel like if I make everything else pro, I feel like this car's gonna be really fast. So anything M is pretty cool. I really love BMWs. Owning a BMW has made me just absolutely love these freaking cars. They definitely come warranted. Definitely need these type of vehicles on the road. Definitely beautiful, luxurious, sporty cars. They fit both categories. The driving experience of a BMW is pretty freaking good, I'm gonna say. The driving experience being good is because, well, the exhaust is nice. Just overall, the features are so advanced, the technology is advanced, and it doesn't seem like there's not too much, but it doesn't seem like there's not anything at all. So it's not too little, and it's not way too much. The advanced technology is nice, and it comes at a decently high quality. The other element that I really like about the BMW brand is the sportiness, and it's so driver focused. It's so nice being behind the wheel of one of these things, being in the driver's seat of one of these things is really nice. And as a daily driver, it's really fun. I really like my BMW 328i. I haven't had any real issues with it, apart from when I first bought it. Granted, most of the issues I've had with it is just because it's a used car, and, well, it's also a 2011, so it is a little old in today's world because it's 2024 now, so my car is officially 13 years old or something like that. Yeah, it's 13 years old, so I'm not really too worried about it. The previous owner took decent care of it from what I can tell, but at the same time, back in those days, it was a pretty expensive car. I'm the second official owner, and it's been in three accidents. It was only in one accident prior, I think, or 0 accident. I think it was 0 accidents. But you can tell that he hit something. I guess didn't report it to insurance. It wasn't anything that crazy, but there was some scratches on the passenger side. Well, now that I got into an actual car wreck, right, where my car's undrivable now, but if not totaled, there was no frame damage or anything crazy. That's being fixed right now, so I'm not too concerned about it. Just as long as the alignment goes right, as long as everything else is fixed, I'm just gonna take way better care of my Beamer. So it's going in the garage, and it's gonna have a car cover over it. It's gonna be a premium car cover as well. I'm gonna be waxing my BMW in the summertime. As far as the Chrysler goes, yeah, it's becoming my daily driver when I end up getting it. So yeah, I'm going to have to drive my Beamer beat up. Now, just because I'm getting the car fixed does not mean that the body damage will be fixed. So that does mean that somewhere down the road, as a side project, I'm going to have to be buying different body parts, essentially, for my BMW. That is the passenger side fender, the entirety of the front bumper, and the new hood. As well as there's going to be some other work that I'm going to have done extra to it, like replacing all the headlights, tail light, that kind of stuff, and just overall, putting Toyo tires on every single wheel and putting in new wheels entirely, like brand spanking new wheels. Yeah, it's going to be priority eventually, but this Chrysler is just going to help get me to work and back, and going to and from places and with my friends. BMW is like a fun Sunday car, but it will also be, both cars are nice. I think the next car I get after that's going to probably be a Ford Explorer or a BMW X3 or an X4.
No matter how bad it gets out there, at least we ain't gotta worry about murder.
Because an SUV does provide a shitload of convenience for what it is, but I think a safer alternative would be an older Ford F-150, like a 2009 F-150 or 2008, something in the early 2000s. That way it's really freaking cheap, like for $5,000 or something like that. Just having a truck would be really convenient for me. But having all these different vehicles, is its own thing, and granted it is a little unrealistic, I think, to expect all these different vehicles. Hell, man, I might even own me like an early 2000s Pontiac GTO. Those are freaking fun cars, honestly. But truth be told, man, I really want to get me an early 2000s Mustang. Honestly. But yeah, no, for right now, this Chrysler I found, it's not that I'm looking for a Chrysler, it's just that on the used car market, it looks like it's really good value for what it is. so, granted, I get it. It's not a Ford, it's not a Chevy, it's not a this or a that, but it's something great. I think personally for the value and what you get, I feel like you get a lot of badassery. Yeah, it might need a little bit of work to it. That'll come into its own thing eventually. As far as the BMW goes, I'm keeping it. And granted, I've been criticized because it's not an M series. It still has it still has a sport suspension on it and whatnot. It's still really sporty. I really like it. So when I put the Toyo tires on it that are all season, and I get all new wheels, I mean, it's basically really nice, Like, I don't have to prove anything. I just, as long as I like it, and I like it, Maybe I might put an aftermarket exhaust system that's really high quality, on it, and, like a higher quality BMW exhaust on it. Possibly get new wheel bearings, new brake discs, new brake calipers, new brake pads, new brake line, stuff like that. Getting the windows tinted and putting an aftermarket spoiler on there that doesn't make it too over the top. And maybe putting a tiny little front splitter on it, putting a really unnoticeable, rear diffuser. Yeah, I mean, there you go. There I go, man. That's my BMW sports car. It's already pretty sporty because it's a coupe, just like this M3 here. It's a coupe. It's basically the same exact body style as this, right? Except mine has the chrome on it. You can tell it's more luxurious. It does not have the quad exhaust. It only has the dual exhaust. And speaking of which, I am going to get my Beamer detailed, like fully cleaned up, and I'm going to be putting some protective coats and getting the car waxed and possibly even repainted. And granted, when I get the new parts on there, it's going to look like a brand new car. And so when I do all the shit to my BMW, yeah, it's going to attract a little bit more attention, because it's essentially going to have brand new wheels on it, the really nice headlights and whatnot. Oh, that is the other thing. The new grille has to go in there. So, I don't know. But either way that I look at it, certain components that I can tell in the engine bay that are getting really old and should be replaced, I'm going to go ahead and replace them. And so, just little shit like that. As long as the parts are super cheap, I'll just go ahead and replace them where I can. Just so that way, I have what I need. But also, with this Chrysler 300C, is they make a thing for the trunk. Basically, it's like I think they have an option where I can put a spare tire, basically a spare tire holder on the back of my trunk. So that would be really freaking useful, because that way I can have a spare tire to basically put on there, and I'll be having a power tool, like a hammer wrench, like a power wrench, basically. I want to say, with the right proper, socket set or whatever, or just get a tire iron and whatnot. Keep some spare lug nuts. Just keep a small bag of some spares in case any get lost. Whatever. Keep some nice lubricant in the car as well, with a tire iron, a small little toolbox or something. And I'm gonna probably buy me one of those, like the jumper cables with the tire inflators on them, and a bicycle pump. I'm just gonna have all this shit, so that way if anything happens to my car, I can fix it on the go, basically. And the BMW is just gonna be fully cleaned up and basically looking nice. I might even get a new, a hood swap, similar to this hood, right? Where it's kind of sportier. And I might And I saying I might look at some like a skirt extension thing or something like that to make it look sportier. Like I just want the 328i to just look really sporty and be very luxurious on the inside. Honestly, I don't expect anything too crazy out of it since the car pretty much, you know, um, I mean it's four-wheel drive and that's kind of fun. But maybe I might like the Chrysler more. Maybe it might just be more visually appealing because it's like the poor man's Rolls Royce, and so to me it's got that style to it that's really nice. It's got that American build quality that's just that's lasts, and it's got a Hemi which just sounds great. So it's rear-wheel drive, which is super sporty. You know, whatever. But gotta be honest, I do like the BMW. I love the brand. I love the cars they make. I love the styling. Everything about the BMWs I've fallen in love with. BMW over Mercedes-Benz any day of the week. Although some Mercedes-Benz look kind of questionable. Granted, the whole Mercedes, or not BMWs, some Mercedes look questionable. I mean, some Beamers look questionable, like the i3 I don't like. The SUVs are actually kind of nice, and so if you ever hear me ranting about SUVs, I absolutely hate them. The one thing BMW is missing is a pickup truck, and honestly, if they make a pickup truck and they actually make it like reliable, I mean, BMW is getting there in terms of reliability. I mean, they're making little by little progress, and so, you know. I don't know. Ideally, if I ever get a house with a two-car garage, I'm probably just gonna get a Dodge Challenger, because you can get those for relatively cheap for the most part if you look hard enough. Getting an older one used, you know, or figure a situation where I can get one. Boom, I have one. Now it's just for the Beamer and that, and then have the Chrysler and a Mustang in the driveway with a truck and an SUV. It's like, holy fuck, man. Ideally, I'm a car guy. I love cars, but I'm also a gun nut. So both worlds kind of collide from time to time. Like, cars are, I don't want to say more important than firearms, but there are moments, right, where you need your car to get to work, and so for me, I need to fix this situation. It's a necessity, my transportation situation. So I get it. Some people that have been homeless, or that have been transportationless, rather, for a long time, and they've adapted it and they've lived that life for a long time, they know how to get from point A to point B without having a car. Personally, that's great, that's awesome. I need a car, you know. It's just, I'm a car guy, so not having a car just kind of sucks for me. But then again, it is what it is. But when it comes to cars, my style of cars that I prefer, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I love sporty cars. I like luxurious cars, but I don't really. I mostly like sedans and pickup trucks, and coupes. And I like some exotic body styles as well. I'm not a big SUV. I'm not a big hatchback. I don't like crossovers as much. There are some crossovers, just depends, that I can appreciate. But hatchbacks, SUVs, wagons, I absolutely hate those vehicles. I despise wagons with a burning passion. Now, as I mentioned, I think at the beginning of the stream, the Kia Soul vehicles, like the square shipbox, well, let's call it the shipbox body style. I believe Jeep makes the Renegade, which is basically the Jeep version of a Kia Soul. But yeah. And I don't know, I'm very proud. I'm a Leo. I'm very proud of my taste in cars. I'm proud that I don't like just everything else. I'm glad that my taste in cars really stands out from the rest of the crowd. I know to some people it can be very annoying. I'm going to call it, so the Jeep Renegade is basically the Kia Soul of Jeep. I mean, it's almost the exact same size. Then you have the Nissan Cube, the BMW i3, of course the Kia Soul, the Honda Fit. I think even Chevy has something similar. I mean, the Honda Fit isn't exactly it, but it has the same appeal to it. I think the Chevy has one, basically. It's not the HHR, but yeah, go ahead and include that.
Good news. We got a new couch. Go on. Make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, so it's called the Chevy Trax. Trax. It looks more like an Equinox, sort of snubbed down to a Kia Soul length. That's sort of what the Honda Fit is, I think, as well, kind of, sort of. But it looks more like the Kia Soul than the Trax. But honestly, man, yeah, man, in my opinion, those type of vehicles, I absolutely hate them. It's like a burning passion. I'm sure Toyota, Nissan, well, we already said the Nissan Cube. I'm sure Ford makes something like that, to that effect, at least. Oh, so it's a hatchback. So that's all it is. The Kia Soul is a hatchback wagon. So yeah, the Subaru Outback looks absolutely ugly as well. What really fucking sucks is the only actual, or did I say hatchback? I don't know, fucking wagon, whatever. The Subaru Outback wagon looks ugly. Now what really fucking sucks is this bullshit right here. The fucking BMW, the 2007 BMW 5 Series 530xi wagon all-wheel drive. It's $3,550. I absolutely fucking hate wagons. This is probably one of the only good-looking wagons, are these BMW wagons, basically. But since they're a wagon, I hate their existence, and so I hate that BMW has ever made something so ugly. But they're the only good-looking wagons. In my opinion, it's the same thing with the Mercedes wagon. But if you're gonna buy a Mercedes, why buy the wagon? I guess I could see that the wagons are, well, they're ugly, most certainly, but it's also a 5 Series, and so since it predates my car, it's still, for the time being, it's one of the better BMWs. I guess if I were to own a wagon for $3,000, I might as well just buy it, you know. I mean, why not? Why not own a wagon and see what it's like to fucking own one of the ugliest body styles of vehicles that exist? I don't know, maybe I'm just over-exaggerating here. But to me, the Equinox, it's identified as a wagon. My mom owns one. I hate the way it looks, but to me, I give it the respect of calling it an SUV. I don't like SUVs. To me, an SUV stands for shitty, useless vehicle. but it's for soccer moms, because soccer moms went from the minivan to the SUV. They call it the sports utility vehicle. Because it's sporty. It's not sporty, it's ugly. That's the only thing it is. It's not sporty, it's just ugly. It's not useless necessarily, but you can't be a jack of all trades because, well, if something can do everything, it's most likely not great at doing everything. See, the SUVs suck being sporty unless they're Ferrari or Lamborghini or Audi, you know, or whatever brand makes SUVs, I don't know. But fucking, you know, but to the average consumer, as far as SUVs go, I'm just gonna go and squash the fucking rumors right now. The only practical SUVs are the only SUVs that I'd be proud to own. Obviously, that are not the Ferrari, not the Lamborghini, not the exact SUVs that we're referring to here, but in fact, I'm referring to more or less like vehicles that you or I could own. The only SUVs that make sense really are the Mercedes, BMW, you know, like the BMW X Series. I don't know what the Mercedes makes SUVs, but those are okay. The Cadillac Escalades, the Lincoln, not Continentals, the Lincoln Navigators, any Lincoln SUV, that works. And the, I always said the Cadillac, the Ford Explorer and Dodge Durango. I think those would be the only SUVs that I think will work. Everything else, the CRV, the RAV4, they all kind of suck. Just my opinion. I don't like Japanese cars, so you can combine Japanese cars with SUVs, and I just will absolutely hate them. Same thing with hatchbacks and wagons. Thank you. That's all I gotta say. Now, as far as Japanese cars that work, the Mazda RX-7, the Honda NSX, the R34 Skyline, although extremely underpowered, and the, well, I never liked the Supra. I always thought it was ugly, but the Supra is higher performance in terms of like how it performs, so I have an appreciation for its performance. The style department can eat ass. I don't like those nasty, and I'm talking about the Mark IV Supra in particular. But beyond all that, Toyota hasn't really made anything that pretty in a long time. The Camrys are all ugly. Sorry, guys. But it's just an opinion. If you don't like it, you don't have to adhere to it. You don't have to like agree with it. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to. But that's just the way I think about cars. It's just the type of cars I like. So if you own a Honda Civic wagon, you know, I guess, I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's fine, but just, I'm gonna call it ugly. Like, even the Volkswagen Golf is ugly. Like, I'm sorry, Volkswagen, but like, let's just not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just call it as I see it. Or I'm gonna call it as I see it for sure. So let's go find a Volkswagen Golf GTI. It doesn't matter what year. Okay, this works. Absolutely ugly. Banned. The modern Honda Civic Type R, the 2015. Banned. Looks ugly as fuck. Volkswagen Golf Club Sport. Didn't know that was a thing, but it's banned. It's absolutely ugly. Honda Civic Type R original. This ugly shitbox, the ugliest car in all of existence besides the Kia Soul. Banned. The standard unmodified Golf GTI from the 70s, 76 to be exact. Banned. This thing is ugly. This thing looks like a geometric shitbox. See, like, that's a pretty car. That's a pretty car. Not exactly pretty, but appreciable. Like, I can appreciate it. The Mitsubishi Lancer, it's pretty ugly. Porsche, beautiful. Mustang, beautiful. BMW, especially an M4. Modified, look at that, look at that, look at that. Sexy. Absolutely sexy. 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 Absolutely sexy. Weld racing. Huh. Awesome. I like the BBS wheels, but this weld racing shit is just like... Weld Racing USA. USR. Oh no. Weld I don't think I can get that one on this one. Oh, dude, yeah. Bro, absolutely. Everything on this car has been modified stance. There we go. So yeah, no, I think ending out the stream just with this beautiful BMW. I mean, this thing is like tricked out. I like the new M4 competitions. Honestly, I think they're beautiful looking cars. I've seen one in person, up close on the road, in parking lots, just online, in video games. This car right here, this M4 in particular, is just so beautiful, man. Well, I think this car is just right here. This car. This is what's happening. This is what people are gonna remember. Oh my gosh, dude, this BMW, this is like, I love Beamers, honestly, that's just me. Can't speak for everyone. Everyone has their opinion on BMWs, it seems like. People like to say they're unreliable, they're overrated, this and that, this, that, the third. Fucking, I find them to be very stylish, very beautiful, very sporty, very fast, very effective, very efficient. Very effective as in being an effective form of transportation, because not only does it look great, not only does it feel great, but driving the thing, it's just, I don't know, it's efficient at doing what it needs to do. And wow, dude, this thing just, it sits so low to the ground, and it's not too low to the ground. Dude, this thing is just a beast, I'm telling you. I'm not even worried about my competition. This is an M4 competition. Competition. I know for the Italians, a lot of Italian car brands are like the Alfa Romeo is like the Competizione. I think that's how it's pronounced. But personally, man, I'm not even fucking worried about my competition, man. Like, this car is just zipping. Like, okay, I mean, the only part I don't like is that the wonkiness of the hood, how like it just doesn't really fully translate on there, because the BMW badge itself should be part of the hood. All that there was part of the hood. I would appreciate it a little bit more, I think, but since it's its own separate thing, it has this like really derpy sort of, well, this isn't the hood, this is something else kind of look to it. It's just like, well, the whole top there was just all carbon fiber. I think it would have been way better. Would have been realms better. I've seen the top tier BMWs versus Lamborghinis winning, and I've seen them gap plenty of things. Honestly, I just love BMW, man. Like, it's just a car brand that I just love. And even that 550i or iX, whatever it was, wagon, like, even that makes me kind of want a wagon now. Just making me want that as a wagon. It's just like, well, because I bought it because it was like $3 grand. It's like, dude, that was hella cheap, and it's a Beamer. It's like, well, it's like, well, shit, man. It's got that 8-cylinder engine in it, so it's a wagon. You know, it's a sporty wagon. It's just like, well, even though wagons cannot be sporty, but this is a sporty wagon. Here it is. You know, whatever. It's the convenience of a wagon. I still hate it. I don't like it that much, but you know, whatever. But personally, yeah, I would never personally own a wagon. But if it really came down to it, right, it's like, okay, if I got one for free, if I had the choice between that or any other wagon, I'd pick that, because then I'd sell that and just buy whatever I want. But the other choice is I can only own wagons, and I'd have to pick just any other wagon, but I couldn't own a wagon, I guess. If the stakes were, you can own this BMW wagon, or you'd have to permanently own Hondas. Personally, I'd pick the BMW wagon, honestly, and just be content with life. It'd be like, well, there were times where I used to not drive a wagon. You know, that's how much I hate Honda. But anyway, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.